here. I am going to today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your morning and your real quickly, I just want to go over what we're going to be covering today. We'll start with welcome and introduction. We'll move into remarks on the site plan and response to public input the next step. And then everything with our team. Question and answer period, and what I'm going to ask for everyone around the question and answer period. I'm going to ask you please hold your questions when we go through the discussion until we get to the Q&A. If a question does come up for you, that's why we have the cards on the chair. I ask if you need something to write with, to go ahead and write it down at time so you can direct it over to the Q&A. And then there will be an opportunity to review the display boards in the back, talk to staff about the project, and share some ideas and comments on a part of this project. So I also want to remind you that we live in a community where COVID is surging in our community. And so in our need to keep everyone safe, one, that's why we are outside today. And number two, we're asking everyone to please keep your masks on the whole time we're gathering here today. We think it's really important as far as safety for all of us, and that's why we're asking us all to do that. So there's going to be an update on what we put prior community engagements meetings. I'll get to that. We're going to share the current proposal and how the project has changed in response and then clarify the next step. So today we're going to hear from Vice Mayor Santa Cruz. We're also going to hear from Carrie and Miranda, who are part of the project, and then we're going to hear from Scott Clark, who is with planning and development. So I want to remind everyone of where we've been and the prior community engagement related to this site. So first, Ward 1 and the city held a set of meetings and conducted a survey in April 2021 to gather community input to understand the community's priorities and desires regarding development options for the site of 36th and LaCholla. We had about 100 people attend that meeting on the basketball court, and then over 50 people who attended a virtual meeting that we also held to meet the needs of all folks as best we can. Ward 1 also conducted a community survey about priorities for the site, which had 139 individuals respond to that community survey. Some of the themes that emerged from the community input were a desire for lower density development, housing that is affordable to our community, natural desert open space, particularly south of the Enchanted Hills Watch, and for water harvesting and green infrastructure to be integrated into any new development. This feedback was shared with the property owner who considered this input and developed a revised proposal that we are here to discuss today. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Vice Mayor Sanders.
Thank you, John Peter, and good morning, buenos días. Before we get started today, I asked my comadre, Maria Federico, who's a member of the Catholic Chicali here in Tucson, to open us up with the blessing. I want to acknowledge that we are on the ancestral lands of the Tohono and also the homelands of the Pastoyan tribe. I know that the pandemic has made it more of a challenge to have dialogue, especially on issues that we don't always agree on. So I thought it was important to start us off this morning with a grounding exercise. Thank you for being here. We just wanted to open up the direction, just to bring out a good day, a good conversation, a good discussion regarding this place where we're standing. Traditional homeland for Oaxaca and our young relatives, and just to remember that we're discussing land that has been well taken care of for centuries and centuries before. Thank you. And so we're gonna, if you can, if you're able to, and we're gonna stand and face the east, and we'll go around to each of them. Thank you. Eight left. To the north. North. There we go. Five. Hello. Maria wasn't full around the court here, the stage. Thank you, everyone, and have a healthy and safe day.
In the whole town, here first,
The autumn or
the whole town, they were here first, right?
yeah, they're the ancestral relatives of the autumn. Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity and the space to be able to do that. So again, good morning, buenos dias. I'm Lane Santa Cruz, your Ward 1 council member, currently serving as the vice mayor of Tucson. And I want to thank all of you for being here and coming out this morning. I know that we continue to have challenges throughout this pandemic. And I really want to thank all of y'all for showing up, our planning and development services, staff, and all Ward 1 staff as well for working diligently to put this together. We have been talking about the site since I came into office about 2 years ago. I think none of us, planned or even knew how to engage the public in these conversations when we weren't even able, to meet face to face. So I know that, that has been a challenge, and I thank you all again for continuing to show up. So we've had, like John Peter mentioned, in person and then a virtual public meeting or community engagement process to kind of hear some of the issues and the concerns that the community had. And this was separate from the earlier proposed development for the site. From the feedback that we got from that engagement process and that survey, we passed on that information to the owner of the site. And we have Narinder here today who will be speaking to y'all as well. And so we're here, we're here now with this new proposal of what could potentially happen at the site. And the purpose of these meetings, have been to try to engage a diverse, cross-section of our community with different needs that we have in this area, and trying to understand how we balance the ecological, the economic, the social equity interests of this area. And as your representative, I know that it's important to strike a balance between all of these different needs. I think that the balance, what's being presented here today, is a starting point for us. And I'm looking forward to hearing your questions, your concerns, so that we can continue to move forward in this process. I hope that you'll stay with us throughout this session and ask questions, provide your comments, and visit the information stations that we have around the perimeter. And with that, I want to introduce Narinder, the owner of the site, and thank you all again for being here.
Oh, can you hear me clearly? Okay. I just look at my face, not lost. Easier.
I have back to the boss. Good morning. This is my first time, so I'm going to be a little bit hesitant, but thank you. So let's go through the process. Good morning. My name is Salazar. A little bit about myself. I moved from England to Arizona like in 1987. I got my wife here. And we have two wonderful grown children. My wife is an educator, and our son is also an educator. One of the steps in education. They were finished veterinary school by training. And we all live here in Arizona. I have worked in real estate for almost 25 years, working on multi-family projects. Vision ethos, always passionate and always being to bring together a community to improve the lifestyle of our citizens. This involves not just the renovations project, but also improving infrastructure, amenities within the community and in the neighborhood. This helps our local schools, our businesses, our civic organizations, the community at large. It helps improve the vibrancy, vitality, and diversity of the neighborhood. When we want the land, I want to develop a design that follows the same vision and same ethos. This also takes time and patience, and with many aspects to consider in implementing people. Now, during this most recent design and redesign of our project, it is important that we reach out to the community, be responsive to their observations and their concerns, make revisions, and be respectful in a responsible manner. Now, there is a desperate need and urgent need for housing. This location is a great place for housing needs. Metropolitan Tucson has grown from about 400,000 in the 1970s to over 1 million now. We're gaining about 10,000 new residents every year, but only accommodating eligible for about half. We purchased the site in 2005. We studied the site based on the context and goals, and based on the two-known area plan, which the city is going to put together as the best use of site for the citizens. We understand the benefits of providing proximity to schools, infrastructure in place, proximity to the city, a freeway, major arterial roads, and businesses around. Now, we support the concept of cluster housing. We do not want a large lot that will cover the entire site, that will cut into the floodplain and the washes, that will be destructive to the animal habitat. We have worked with many layouts. We have reduced the lot from 200 to 137 lots. We have picked off only on the north of the wash and adjacent to the school and existing development. Now, many citizens have provided their thoughts, or we have messaged them. Which there's certain process like plans, meetings, listening to all standards, making decisions, coming out rightly the best time for the site. And I really appreciate Fort Mont and the staff, for putting great productive staff all together. It has been a very educational course. I sincerely and honestly believe we have struck the right balance with this design. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to Terry to go into details. Thank you.
Been asked to kind of explain the project. Actually, I'm going to put North on top. Can everybody hear me? My 3 teenagers told me they never have a problem hearing me. So 36th Street is on top, 44th Street is on the bottom, LaCholla is over on your right. To just orient everybody. We've worked, as Narinder has mentioned, we've worked really, really hard on the project, and I know that the Vice Mayor, Ward 1, has also worked really hard to facilitate a lot of dialogue with the community, and we really tried to input that into the plan. So although we everything south of the Enchanted Coast Wash is open space, which is about 70% of the property. We have been asked to do that, and we have done that, with the idea that we are clustering the development north of the wash, which is really where a lot of the existing infrastructure is. That's where the school is, and that's where a lot of the corridors have development as well. So as Narinder alluded to, we have 137 lots. Our original proposal was 200. For those of you that followed the process, we also had a plan that showed 170 that had a cluster up to the north as well as a cluster on the south. So what we've done since the last community engagement is taken, like I said, 70% of the property, and we're keeping that as open space, clustering the 137 lots up on the north side of the wash. A few other things that were brought up, there was a lot of concern about how this would affect traffic, particularly on 36th and LaCholla. And as the next part of the process, after the change of condition that I know Mr. Clark's going to explain in a minute, we're going to have to do a traffic impact analysis. And it's going to catalog the amount of traffic that's out there now. The upside of this process taking almost 2 years is that the schools are now back. So had we done traffic counts and other things at the time we started this project, it would have been difficult to calibrate those for COVID. So we're in a better position now to be able to do that. That traffic analysis will get done. We will then calculate how much traffic is anticipated, and then there will be traffic improvement requirements. We just don't know what those are right now. And again, that's part of the next process, and the city's going to require that as a condition of what we hope is the approval for this concept. The other couple of things that I know came out of the community engagement was a need for pedestrian and bicycle connectivity. So what you'll see, and we'll have these plans, there's one, the duplicate back there, and we'll have it back over here afterwards if you want to look at it. Along 36 and along LaCholla to the north end of the bank, the north side of the bank, the wash will be pedestrian connectivity. It's a multi-use trail. There will also be a bike lane along LaCholla as well. And then there will be sidewalks and additional connectivity within the project to those street connections. Narinder Narinder as a property owner is very committed to sustainable development. For those of you who are aware of just how a community develops, a cluster design is a sustainable design. The reason is that this open space then becomes coordinated open space for wildlife corridors and other amenities, as opposed to over on the west side, the lots were developed, they're larger lots, and the open spaces within the lots, and it doesn't allow a lot of that coordination. So the cluster in and of itself is sustainable. We're going to be working on making sure that all of the plantings are native. We're going to comply with the native plant preservation ordinance, which is a city ordinance that requires us to take a look at the vegetation on the site. And for certain species, if as part of the development, they'll be removed. Some of them will need to be mitigated. So we'll be working through that whole process as well. And the last thing I was asked to highlight is that whenever a development comes in, really a housing development, but really any of them, they pay what are called impact fees. And for housing, it's based on the number of units. So with 137 units, this is going to bring in between $300,000 and $400,000 for specifically for parks and roads in this benefit area, which is this area of the region. So those will be paid at the time of development, at the time of building permit by the developer property owner. This has evolved a lot. The 200 lot plan had clusters in both places, but clearly a lot more lots. We do believe we've listened and balancing the fact that it's private property and developable property with the desires for open space, pedestrian connectivity and other issues. So we're excited about that, and I think I'm turning this back over to John.
I'm going to now turn it over to Scott Clark with Planning and Development Services, and he will discuss the next steps in this process.
Good morning, I'm Scott Clark, I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services from the City of Tucson. Thank you for coming out this morning and exercising your democracy. I appreciate that. We've got 45 of you signed in here, we've got 10 online, it's kind of the reverse of what I expected. But we made a decision to move this outside yesterday, given the COVID numbers were cruising up again. So thank you for coming, thank you for wearing your mask. Continue to participate in the process and have comments as we go. So where we're going from here is we heard this morning, the developers taking a lot of the comments that we made over the last 6 months and have incorporated that into a proposal. So you see the open space, you see the trails, you see the discussion of the traffic impact analysis. As a requirement on this particular basis, they will be required to retain more stormwater on site that is presently leaving. So it will be a 15% increase on stormwater they have to than the current condition. That's because we have flood conditions down here already. So that's what you're developing to do for mitigate. Okay. So in order for this to move forward, the next step is a legislative step, and that is consideration of the annexation provision. That will be discussed at a public hearing on February 8th. I encourage you to sign up online and participate in that hearing, and then your voice is known. If council denies the changing conditions, back to drawing board, if they approve it, staff will continue to review the preliminary development plan, provide comments on that, give it back to the developer, respond to those comments, and then come back up. In this stage, the preliminary engineering is complete. There will be additional engineering that takes place once the final design is arrived at through the process. So traffic, stormwater, road layout, and those things may change slightly. There is no plan to go south of the open space as it is now will be transferred to a city. We're working on that mechanism. The idea is to keep it open space. So make your comments on what you want to see as far as open space, whether it's trails, parks, things or whatever. That will go into the future consideration part of the process for how the city manages that. One thing that we want to see back again today is, of course, the design you're seeing now, and then the open space. Next step of the process, we'll make it earlier, the mayor and council public hearing again, February 8th is online. Tuesday, February 5:30 p.m. That's the motion. So that's where we are today. You have dramatically changed this development proposal by your comments today. So thank you for considering to do that. And from here, we're going to get into the question and answer discussion, and I will turn it back over to John here.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, panelists, for your information this morning. So now I'm going to open it up to Q&A. Did you have a question? Oh, okay. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I saw another hand in the back. Rebecca, continue. Okay. If people need hints, because things come up for you there from folks that are staff. Staff, can do me a favor that are around this, if you could just raise your hand so that people can see you. So most of them are in the back. If you need a pen, they'll have a pen for you. So what I'm going to do is do my best to watch people's hands and grab them. The other thing I'd like to ask you to do is as much clarity as you can with your question. Let me know who you're asking your question to. So I will start here because your hand was the first one I saw. Then I'm gonna come here in the purple hat, then I'm gonna come back over here in the beige hat.
So, my name is Catherine Weasel. I'm with Shannon Hills Neighborhood Association. I've been president for over 10 years. I first met a Breeza in 2004 when we first started saving everything over there. So, my question is, are you willing to sign documentation and record it that we will have our natural, I gotta check my wording here. 1 second. Reactors. Our natural, undisturbed, open space park, put it all in writing, exactly the whole lot, however much you think you're gonna give us, put it in writing and everything like that, so we can review it before we even start with a annexation. No more
One person at a time, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, they're just helping me because I have a little bit of Alzheimer's,
Okay.
Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Okay, so
Is that, so
we
you,
would like to know first, are you willing to give us in writing, record it, and make sure that that is not retractable from the city of Tucson for natural, undisturbed, open space park? Number 2.
hold on real quick. Let's take one question at a time so that we don't, so let's answer that first question. Who would like to take this?
That is the city's intent, is to put it in natural open space. Exactly how the management of that is being worked out now, because we've got to acquire it through a quick claim deed or acquisition, and then it's going to be part from here on. The people that decide the long-term terms of that will come out of the development agreement that the mayor and council consider and eventually sign on.
That wasn't the question.
Well, that's the answer. So,
Not gonna be right.
I'm gonna go with the purple hat.
Our survey from last year has come up. Exactly what was the thing that the neighbors and everybody who was at that meeting voted on, that they wanted to see the most on this 6 pages.
Okay, so you said twice the survey. Are you specifically talking? Yes, are you specifically talking about the survey that they did online? Is that one? Yes, okay.
That we all did on this property
And so you want to know what came up in that survey?
this morning.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes. What was
Okay.
the number 1 thing people wanted?
What was the number one thing that people wanted from that survey? Who is responding to that?
It's on the boards. It's on the boards.
So, Jasmine, can you do me a favor and let them know if the response to your question, the answer is on the chart, it's actually reflected on the charts, what came up in the survey. So, and so my understanding from folks is, you want to make it?
Okay, I have a copy of the chart, so. But, correct me if I'm wrong, because the word is it's intimately involved, but the things that came up the most were natural open space.
No, that is not what.
Oh,
You already mentioned things that came up. However, you mentioned at least one thing that was not favored. It did come up that it was not even favored. So what I would like this group to know is what the people who were here wanted the most.
Okay.
You
what's
have
the
it,
one
right?
thing, okay, you're,
Right?
Yeah.
Order of priority. Exactly.
I'm gonna try to respond to that, but, in the graph that we had low density housing, natural open space and affordability is the top three priorities.
Is that what you were looking for? Okay, thank you. I see your hand. I'm gonna come back to you. There's a gentleman that has a tan hat on. Just to let you know, I can't hear you very well. Can you just speak up a little bit more for me? Unfortunately, I can't. I was hoping for that.
That's why I live in 1991 West San Montreal. It is.
Okay, so oh, go ahead. Finish your question. I'm gonna stop you though, because I want to make sure, let's get to the first one. So, say your first question again for me.
It's a key question dedicated to the area that's not yet. Two, because the city can reach out.
First question.
So, first of all, it's currently private property. The developer is looking to give it to the city, quick claim, need a transfer. The city's discussions today are to keep it as a park and a relatively low density park, mainly walking trails and transportation. That's the discussion on this right now. It's not a final discussion. But that's ongoing, and that's where you need your comments, because that's going to shape the city's discussion on how to move. The next meeting is the formal mayor and council public hearing on the annexation condition. That's the one that's on Tuesday, February 8th at 5:30. So when you show up to testify, you want to discuss whether you want the annexation condition listed or not. And if there are conditions you would like to see as part of that, you want to be clear on that. So if you want to say, I don't support the annexation, right? If you want to say, that I support the lifting of conditions, but I want you to take care of the following items. This is the time to say that in the council, and we'll turn around for staff, those are the lifting conditions. So it's important in that.
And I'm gonna go on to another person. So let me also put this out. What I'm going to ask you all to do is not try to give me 2 to 3 questions at the same time. One question at a time, so I can make sure that question gets answered. Who did, I said you were next, right? Could you hold your hands up for me so I can see around the room? I made some explanation. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I live right there in LaCholla, and not LaCholla, but 36th Street, Gibson. And with the north entrance exit to this development, so all the headlights are going to come right into my kitchen window. Every car coming out of that neighborhood, and when they leave in the morning, they'll have to drive all the way around and come out on 36th. But you're not going to get out on LaCholla that in the morning or the afternoon. So everybody has to come right through my window. Why? Why can't it move to San Juan Trail?
So is that your question? Why can't it move to San Juan Trail?
Okay, one thing that I forgot to mention, and this goes to that question, so I appreciate the question. The San Juan Trail, which is, I think, the west side, the west end of our property, that actually is not a roadway. That's on private property. So one of the things that we talked with the city about is that we are going to be dedicating an access easement. Some folks along that western edge of the property actually don't, they're using this and it's not actual right of way, which is right over here. one of the commitments that we made was that that is currently a private, it really, even though it's on our property, it only serves those properties. We were asked specifically not to use that as access for this development because of those folks down here. So instead, we're going to be dedicating and doing an enhanced buffer in that area. What we will look at as part of the traffic analysis is exactly where that location is. And if we need to do some mitigation for traffic lights, we will. We are also going to be required to do some improvements on LaCholla. So some of your comments about how difficult it is on LaCholla right now, that's based on current conditions. Our traffic analysis is going to indicate that there need to be some improvement that we're going to have to do. It's not to say people won't use 36, so I don't want to say they won't. But we can, as part of this process, work with you on mitigation. So I have a business card. So afterwards, I will give you one and we can have a discussion about, this is not necessarily a project location either. This has to go through a whole design. So where that actually goes, we're not sure, but I'm happy to stay in contact with you.
Thank you. All right, I see the hand up again, so I can expand the room. So here's what I'm gonna do. 1, 2, 3, and Butler, 4, 5, 6. Please remember those numbers that I just gave you, 7 and 8. All right, number 1. And then I have to take, is that a question I need to deal with, or?
That's a question from the chat.
It's just a question from the chat. So I'm gonna take your question, sir, and then I need to take one from folks that are online. Go ahead.
My name's Gary.
Yes,
My
you are,
name's
you're
Gary.
one.
My name's Gary Gibson, and I'm the co-chairman of West Side Neighborhood Association. We're changing our name. And unlike Narinder or Karen or Scott, I was elected to represent my neighborhood. My election's registered in the city. And the thing is, like, I have not been allowed to communicate the needs of our neighborhood with Ward 1. And Narinder bought this property in 2004, and he thought he could put 200 houses on it. And in fact, he could, because you'd have to change a bunch of the conditions of annexation. We wouldn't let him do that. And it seems like what's going on right now is that you all are trying to make Mr. Narinder's investment whole. You want to make sure we don't really, if I invest in something and it doesn't go up, I lose money. Why is this a guarantee?
What's your question?
My question is why does the city of Tucson feel that they have the right to make the render whole? Because he can't do it. He can't do it without the city mayor and council saying that, okay, you can make some money here.
Who would like to take that question?
So that's a great question. So the city follows the Unified Development Code. That's what we can compel someone to do once it is properly zoned. This one doesn't have the zoning and it doesn't have the annexation condition. So Mr. Narinder has been negotiating with the neighbors, Ward 1 and the city to arrive at a proposal that the council could consider supporting as far as looking at annexation. Is there property rights concern? Sure. But in the state of Arizona and the city of Tucson, the city council has enormous leverage on properties developed. That's why you're seeing these kind of meetings and this kind of thing.
So you can make money for me, right? Scott, it's like if I want to make some money to buy a crap property and you can help me develop it, is that what you're saying? You
No, I
are,
didn't say that at all.
you are a real
All right,
estate,
next
you're a
question.
real estate company,
Okay.
Scott, you're a real estate.
Thank you. I need to take a question from online. I know that you're next is your number 2. That's why I gave you number 2. The question from online is the letter that we received that the plans have been reduced from 170 to 137. What is the original number? That wording implies that the original figure is 170 and that the developer is generously reducing the number. What is the original zoning number?
Okay, so I'm going to explain a little bit more about why we're here. We go,
Give the number.
I will give you a number. Ma'am, ma'am,
So,
go ahead. The original annexation condition is that this 60 acres, this whole private 60 acres is only allowed to lot at minimum 36,000 square foot lot sizes. If you were to take the 60 acres and divide it up, that would yield 150 lots. When we first took a look at doing the cluster development option on this project, we proposed, and our original proposal was 200 lots. And the lots were clustered up on the north and they were clustered down on the south. That was in March of 2020, March, April, whenever it was being actually put in the application. I think the neighborhood meeting was in March or April. It was the very first virtual meeting that we had ever conducted. And we had to do it twice, for those of you who remember, because we had technical difficulties. We had never done it before. So the original submittal that we made on this request to remove that minimum lot size so that we didn't have larger lots and unfortunate open space was for 200 lots. In October of 2020, we worked with the council office, and after hearing some of the productive comments from neighbors about how to balance developability and open space, we had reduced the lots down to 170. That is the most recent proposal that was in front of, and that's when, if you look at the timeline, the Ward 1 office asked that it not be heard on the agenda and to give some time for Ward 1 to conduct some additional engagement. That occurred. After that engagement, we proposed a different proposal to Ward 1 that had not been brought forward, that reduced it a little bit more, but still had a cluster of development in the south. That's when we were asked to make the entire southern area open space, which is 70%. So the proposals went from, here are your numbers, 200, 170, and it's now down to 137.
Thank you. Okay, I really need to ask you, as the moderator and facilitator with 6 of you talk to me, there's absolutely no way I can keep track of that. Which is why I gave some of the people numbers. I really need one person at a time to speak. And also what I'm going to ask this group to do, because I know this is an issue of fairness to everyone. Many of us have ideas, but we really need to treat each other with dignity to the best of our ability. I need to have that of the group. It's part of our guidelines for today. Number 2.
Hi, I hope everybody can hear me. My name is here, I'm the chair of the Neighborhood Association. And this is in reference to a previous question concerning the west side of this development, and it's not San Juan, it's San Juan King Road. There is a street sign in there for a while. Also, you notice that was pointed out in the original pre-conference plan, that there is a walk-up transition line easement along there of 52 feet. One, also, from my knowledge, this property was bought by this property in 2000 and 2002. After that, in 2004, there was a survey which was published at Pima County Assessment Office, which indicates those water lines right there. The possibility of restricted rights on that road will probably go along. The question is coming. So, my question asking for a meeting, PDFD, P20, that plan accepted by PDFD. I will not acknowledge that they were putting over the capital and the local. They are requesting 204 houses, and their site map shows 187. Why?
Kyle, I apologize. I'm just, I'm
There are
checking the,
setbacks in here for those WAPA lines, and they're actually, if you can see some of the line work in there. What we also discovered at that time is
Carrie?
this site.
I'm sorry, we lost connection for about
Okay.
60 seconds. Do you mind going back to basically the
We
beginning?
lost
Sorry.
connection for 60
People online.
seconds, so I'm gonna have to figure out what I said 60 seconds ago. So those plans were, those issues were accommodated, starting in the 200 lot plan, which was our official submittal, and have continued to be accommodated. So the WAPA lines are currently shown. What we also discovered at that time is that while there is a city street sign there, and it appears to be a continuation of the street, that from a private property rights standpoint, nobody ever dedicated that right of way for that street. So that is still part of this property. And again, part of this process is going to be to rectify that and to create that as an actual public easement for the access to those properties. So there's never an intention of taking it away. And we acknowledge that there's a street sign there. And actually, that was one of the things that came out of that pre-app and that iterative process. So over time, we accommodated the things, and that's part of the engagement. And I think, Abriza, you were one of them who talked to us very early on about the WAPA lines and caused us to go take a closer look at our title report, which had a mistake in it and didn't have those WAPA lines. So we appreciate your engagement. Because it helps correct with that.
Who's number 3? There you go, thank you. Yep.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. My name is Natalia Salazar. I live at 1968 West Saxony Road. I moved into my home understanding that I lived in a semi-rural part of Tucson, and soon after discovered that might not be true. So shame on me for not doing my research. I have a question, but it is a little bit convoluted, and I don't know who the best person is to answer it. So I thank you in advance for your patience. First, I did read some of the material when I got here, and I heard the opening remarks from Lane Santa Cruz. And I'm a little bit confused, as I don't understand if we're talking about right now striking a balance. That was what Lane Santa Cruz said. I was not under the impression that we needed to strike a balance. I was under the impression that there already are existing zoning laws and annexation conditions that the city, at least up to now, has to abide by and cannot change, unless they go through a formal legislative process. So I'd like some clarification as to where we are with that. My question had something to do with what is the actual number of lots that can go in here. And I understand based on questions that have been asked and answers that have been given that there might be a convoluted answer to that, or that people think that the answer is different. So I don't know who the best person could be to answer that. Perhaps somebody from the city or somebody who knows more about zoning than I do. And I can.
They can do whatever they want. That's it.
And I just wanted to add this, because I know it's a little bit convoluted. I understand that right now we're looking at this new proposal, which is simply a proposal. It's nothing written in stone. But I think we're looking at this proposal, thinking about the interest of the property owner and developer, which is fair because that's what property owners and developers do, right? His interests are important to him, their interests are important to them. But I would really like to have these questions answered and get information as to what our interests are and what the current state of the actual zoning laws and conditions are. Try to answer that question.
Right now.
Okay, so the current annexation condition was put in place, I believe, in the 1980s. The way you change an annexation condition is through a public hearing with mayor and council. That happened on February 5th, February 8th, 5:30 p.m. The law only requires one public hearing. You have way more than this particular one. You have numerous public meetings and statements. So how the interest of the public gets interpreted into this process is the comments you're making during this public process. If drawing in some way, shape, or form, if the developer decides they're going to present something more favorable for mayor and council to vote. So what the community asked for in the survey was a lot more open space, and now virtually 50% of the site is open space, which is kind of unheard of in development code, what we see on those numbers. So the idea is to create more open space, create more housing. Those were the discussions that took place. That's what they're giving as a proposal. And that's the input.
Okay, I need number 4. So you're number 10, and I'm gonna come back to you. Okay,
That you are voting for, and how many extensions have been granted by the mayor in office and council? How many extensions is on this project?
I'm gonna say thank you for that question. There are 6 people in front of you. I am not taking that question. So who is number 4?
Answer that question.
Are you number 4?
I had my hand up. You want 1, 2, 3?
Okay, so you may be number 4, you may be number 5. Go ahead, sir, in the white shirt.
My name is Fred Cinder. I own the largest and the original property on Thrasher Avenue of the 160 acres that was there when a great grandfather was there for the development and breakup. So, you know, I've been around a long time. I've tried to build equestrian unit there on that property. I was told that in order to do that, you'd only give me access to 44th Street. I'd have to rebuild that road, which cost another $1 million to do it. All these restrictions that I've had to go through and been told you're gonna widen Thrasher, you're gonna widen LaCholla into a 4-lane, and this is 1980. This city has been misleading and this project is negatively impacting the community. So I and the city have talked about developing this property. I know the difficulty that you as the developer is going through, but you from the planning department and previously people from the city council, you change and then you don't go back and what you told requirements that I had made. I was going to pay $750,000 for the property and it cost me $1 million, $1.2 million to improve 44th Street.
So I just, what's your question? I want to make sure.
My question is, just leave it alone.
Okay, that's not a question. Good. That's the first for I'm not. Okay, understand, I don't know. Number 5. Because I'm moderating and facilitating this conference, that's fine here. Number 5.
Last remark.
So on February 8th, 5:30, public hearing, mayor and council will have the options of removing the annexation condition. They will have the option of removing the annexation condition with ordinance adding to it. They can deny flat out the annexation condition, or they can continue the public hearing and take more public input and vote at a later date. What they do on Tuesday is their discretion, so please attend and then stay engaged. So that's their options Tuesday night.
Number 6.
Yes, they may vote that night.
By 6 or 7.
I think you're 7.
Oh, you're, because I think you skipped 5 is what it was.
She was 5. You're number 6.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is, how are people supposed to come to a meeting if they're not notified? I live on South Forest Avenue 36, and I've had the property for 18 years. I've lived there for 5 years. The only reason I came here, my neighbor told me there was gonna be a meeting. Otherwise, I would have never known.
You didn't get the mail?
He didn't get the mailing, so how does he get notified?
So how are people going to act on something they are not aware of?
Good point.
Who's got it? Who can answer that? You got it?
So the mailing list is gone from the city database of property owners. And when that mailing is sent to the property owners, the other notices that take place are online and also we're advertising in the newspaper. So it wasn't mailed, but the cool thing was the neighbor told me, so he must have got it mailed. Yes, but it's anybody not. There is no way any organization, including the IRS, can reach everyone 100% of the time, 100% accuracy, would be the absolute best we can. The name on the property, the database is who you send that mailing to. It's online and you should justify to them. So this has been a very engaged process over the last few years. We've done, this is our second time out here. And then 3 virtual meetings, I believe. So it's been an engaged process, but now is the time to do your comments again and again on February 5:30 p.m. And if you can't go online, mail your comments to the city clerk. That goes in the mayor and council package. Some of them read that material.
There will be notice for the public hearing on the 8th. Notice.
And the other thing you'll see in the next couple of weeks is there will be a formal notice coming out for the public hearing. So we'll put that in your mail. Do me a favor, before you leave, check in with our staff up there and make a note of getting your address set aside. I'll make sure you get the next mail.
Any group?
My question actually is for Santa Cruz, but I got kind of preface it a little bit, so I will answer another time.
So can you're gonna have to speak up just a little bit, because they won't be able to hear you on the back.
That's why I took my mask off.
Okay.
I'm also basically screaming. My question now ultimately is going to be for Lane Santa Cruz, but I kind of have to preface it a little bit.
You got the
First thing is everybody needs to be aware, there is a proposal that the city has accepted that is buried in maps in the PDSD system. Why they don't have that here, I don't know. But they have pictures from it and stuff of that particular nature. But if anybody wants a copy of that proposal, I have copies. Preface the question for basically Lane Santa Cruz is I'm going to call this a concept plan. This concept 137 plan is a dentist plan to date. The north lot now has more than the 200 lot plan that was presented in July of 2019. Before it came to mayor and council last year, the lot plan was 135 for the 200 lot plan. It was changed to 113 in the north lot plan and approved by PDSD in September of 2020. Even though the July of 2021 meeting that they held, the north lot only had 117 homes. Looks like we're giving up 20% more density for the south lot, which makes traffic 20% more dense. All our safety issues, all these other things come back to that this north lot is now worse than it's ever been. My question in general starts to come back to address things. No trailer park layouts. These are 34-foot wide lots. No two-story housing. We don't want to be blocked out the sun. We don't want to have any of this type of stuff come back and basically separate us from our neighbors. But we don't want to look at a wall of houses. Lot minimums must be 50 feet wide. This partially will accommodate ADA, special needs people. None of these things that RAC has been putting up really takes care of any of our discriminated wounded warriors or anybody else in this avenue. And that's a pattern that's happened over the last couple of years. We had 113 lots in the north lot in last year's plan. We are not going to look at anything that makes this density go up. This density must go down. This is the preface for the question. Lane Santa Cruz pulled this site plan in December 2019 because of a 170-page, 170-poem front page article 3 days before she posted her comments. What in your mind thinks that the density has been addressed by increasing the north lot in your avenue, just not liking the density of the 170s, which had 113. So my question in general is why should we accept the 137 there when you've already gone on record that the 113 you didn't like? You can't separate the density of the north and south lot of your comment. You didn't like the density back then, but now you're giving us 20% more density, 24 more homes, which causes the problems getting any better. Keep in mind, I went to mayor and council meetings all last year and stated my street has rollovers in front of my house. Dale Warner.
Dale, all right, Mr. Dale, thank you so much. One, I will say this, I don't appreciate being misinterpreted to begin with. So when I agreed about the density was about the overall project, I wasn't dividing the north or the south, so I just want to clarify that. I think it's important, and what I, heard throughout this process is how do we balance out the density and having the amount of open space? And so that is what I think is what is being proposed here. So yes, we are getting a little more density on the north side, but we're leaving the south part of the wash completely untouched for this development. And so for me, that is the balance. And even though it's not a win-win for everybody, we all get a little bit of something that is important to all of us. I didn't,
But I appreciate you clarifying the fact that you've been very vague on your density.
Yeah, you are on number 8.
First of all, thank you everyone up front for explaining some of the situation. As you mentioned in April, the survey response, the top one was natural desert.
Can't hear you, Steve.
Maybe walk with the cutter.
In April, the survey, the top choice was natural desert open space at 84%. At that meeting, we also spoke about keeping annexation restrictions of 36,000 square feet. And we were explaining that in the existing zoning. So, also, I want to thank Lane Santa Cruz for starting with the blessing, and I think that you honor your ancestors and the current and future residents of this area by taking that you promise, the city's promise of that annexation restriction. And the top choice, as I said, was for open space. And there has not been extensive service in meetings with this neighborhood. This is only the third meeting, and my question is, in the February 8th public hearing be delayed so that Lane Center can be affected neighbors by the negative impact of this. Mr. Clark, can Lane Center request the public hearing be delayed so that we can get going? March 6th. It's almost 7 months later, there is no negotiations with.
So I disagree, because that's what we're doing right now, and we've been doing throughout the public meeting. And we also canvassed this area this past summer, and that was exactly one of the questions that we engaged community in about the development there and what their thoughts were on it, the potential development of it. So we have been in engagement, in conversations, and it's not the way that we're gonna do, we're gonna have public processes, we're not always all gonna agree. But we're gonna make them as accessible and open to the different people in our community. Just so that y'all are aware, this area is represented by 80% Latino population. Okay, 80%. Is that the percentage that we see here today?
No.
We don't. So we're having to meet people in different ways to get their input as well. So I'm saying this is already a challenge. We're trying to get engagement, that we don't have an equitable representation of all the parties that are impacted. So right now, I know the pandemic makes it extra challenging to engage more people, but these are the processes that we're having. So I'm not gonna sit down with like a small group of people. So I'm gonna keep it open and as public as possible to get everybody's feedback.
So this is actually going to be the last question I'm taking from the floor. I have one more question I'm taking from online, and I'm going to close this process for us, open it up so that people can look at the back. Are you giving your question away or? Okay. Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. You come as close as you need to.
Microphone. Thank you.
I live right across from that property. I lived there for almost 50 years. I was there when the town, the city took over the annex in 1979. They promised to keep it the way it is. Anyway, why is the city of Tucson, because every time you guys talk, we want to do this, we. What about the people who are around? I never been that way in the city. What do I think? It's not fair to us. You guys are screwing us. Thank you.
So that is a great question, and that is a comment we hear all the time, and just everywhere we go. There's an expectation when you buy your home that that's going on through, things are going to have to stay the same. Things evolve, grow, shrink, change in all kinds of ways over their lifetime. They become more commercial sometimes, they become more residential, they become more industrial, whatever, they change. So the legislative process to accommodate that change is to do rezoning and annexation, and like we're talking about today, consideration and annexation. City government take that serious because it is a public hearing, and the council has to act on it. It's not an administrative action, a bureaucrat like me can do. It has to go before your elected officials, where they are supposed to provide their representation on how the area is done. So annexation conditions change, city limits change, the side of the city changes. If you look at downtown Tucson, they did the infill incentive district about 2015. In Tucson, we redeveloped downtown college. The cities change, the conditions evolve to accommodate those change. That is a legislative process to do so.
What's your
Thank you. Last question. Last question.
I'm gonna have another one.
So that they can hear you.
Hi, I'm Louise Baldwin. I'm Vice President of Tucson Mountain Association. Tucson Mountain Association supports, excuse me, the original conditions of annexation at 44 lots, but prefers open space. The original conditions of annexation annexation as just spoke, was a condition that the residents agreed to. And if you look at the current plan as presented, the homes will be presented to the public at the upper $300,000 mark. So this is not something for someone to be able to go in and just buy at affordable housing. So this is not something that just anyone can buy, and you want to talk about affordability, it's not affordable housing. So let's not sugarcoat what we're talking about here. We're talking about two-story homes that will be very expensive. So let's talk about the environmental costs of what this is going to do to our community. And yes, we're talking about open space, and we are very grateful for that. But we're talking about a wash that has setbacks and open space toward Kennedy Park. And we want open space for sure. But this is a very sensitive area that has connectivity to the Tucson Mountains, to the Santa Cruz. We know that we have connectivity to Tucson. And we cannot lose it. Once it's gone, it is gone forever. And yes, and here it is. This is a question for Councilwoman Santa Cruz. How do you feel about losing this sensitive parcel to develop at its density? Because that's what this is. And you have presented with the evidence of the plants that are on this property. Her partners that who counted all the plants from the entire parcel. And you know that this is something that this parcel is a sensitive parcel. And former council member Ricky Romero, you know that this is a sensitive. You know what that means. So what do you think that means? Given that we're going from a parcel that has 44 lots, going to a development like this, what do you think this is going to do?
We have a lot of questions wrapped in there, and one of them is about my feelings and my thoughts. But you're also stating the 44 lots, and I would like, because there has been a lot of sound around the 44 lots, Scott, if you can speak to that number.
That's the annexation. That's what we're talking about. That's it. Period.
So the staff is going to consider the proposals. All other proposals we don't care about. This is what we're reviewing.
Annexation. The return of annexation.
We'll turn to annexation, you'll consider during the Mary Council public hearing. Mary Council contains land use anywhere in the city of Tucson by a board of any time.
That means you're gonna round it down the road. Yes, no.
So the base density is right now is 145. Oh, for 145, 72. So right now they're 130.
So to our points, Tucson Mountain Association supports the original conditions of annexation for open space as was presented in that it was the result of the community meeting, the formal community meeting, as we discussed earlier, and as was presented as the results from the former community meeting. And hope that that will be conveyed to city council. Again. Again, but, you know, we as a community feel that then development is not appropriate for this property. As you see, that walk.
So here's what I want you to do. So do me a favor, because that, you're gonna give me 3 to 5 minutes to speak at the public hearing. So, turn in your comments to right now. And you do most of that. And also do your public speaking when you look at it. So, coach your points, 3 to 5 minutes for the council, also read them.
Okay, so at this point, what I'm gonna do is we're not gonna take any more questions. I need to leave time for people to. So all the staff is gonna be here until up until 12 o'clock and available to answer questions.
One more question is not gonna hurt.
Here's my question, and if we could forward cover this, sorry, okay? I want to know why this particular parcel is so important for it to be developed. Okay, why? Why?
I want to know why it's city engineer. My assessment of flood wall.
I want to know why, I think everybody else knows why. I don't know where to be at.
So-
But it's done. I would like to know why this is so important to develop.
Not benefiting anybody but the developer.
So, again, I want to thank you all so much, for coming through. I'm gonna have Scott respond to that question, and we're gonna wrap it up. We will be here. I ask that y'all continue to look, at the plan that's being presented. Give your comments, your feedback, and then we would love to see y'all at the mayor and council meeting on February 2nd.
So, yeah, so the city does push the private development. The developer submits an application to the city, and the city by law has so many days to review, comment, and move it forward, either to council.
I don't trust your engineer.
So the city hasn't made a decision one way or the other. That's the, you gotta come to the public hearing. All right, thanks.
I don't trust your engineer.
Thank you, everyone. We're gonna open the process up now so that you can talk to staff individually, you can look at the boards. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.